Then the wife is like, "Hey, I have this show you might like." And you're like, "Really?
Yep.
Tell
I
me
was I
more."
was only reading this to
Like
fill the time until I found another show.
like, "What do you mean it's called The Perfect Couple? That's a dumb name for a show." "Well, but it's about this couple that looks perfect, but then a murder happens on their beach."
Book
And
out
you're
the
like, "Wait."
window, man. Tell
And
me more.
you're like, "Really? A murder happens on the beach?" "Yeah, and their son has a fiancée, but she's kinda edgy, she's not old money."
And
And
then
you're
you
like,
go,
she's like,
"Wait,
"She's not old money?"
does Nicole Kidman play her?"
"Wait, there's more. Nicole Kidman is the main character." And you're like, "I have to I need it."
I'm so in. Yeah.
What are we talking about?
Nicole Kidman.
We set out to solve the world's problems. Needless to say, we arrived at Nicole Kidman, who's doing just that.
So everybody get on Bandcamp and support Nicole Kidman.
Ooh, I like that T-shirt.
Thanks, man. Someday I'm going to send you a whole pack of T-shirts. I'll send you one of these ones. This is one of my favorite designs. I feel good about this one.
I mean, there's probably more to it. I mean, I kind of like the little hand, the little bony hand thing.
No, there's really not. I just think skeletons are cool, and
Yeah.
I thought, I bet I could make a bagpipe-looking thing out of skeletons.
It doesn't have a blowpipe though.
No blowpipe. No, I tried a few different bones as a blowpipe, and I just couldn't find a good. So I did femurs for the tenor drones, and that's actually another femur for the chanter.
Right.
And then just standard arm bones and hand, and then of course a set of lungs. And yeah, I tried a little line of vertebrae. I tried a few different things, and it just wasn't coming out. It kept looking kind of gross, honestly.
Yeah.
And so then I eventually was like, you know what? Actually, we'll just do no blowpipe. I think it still looks like a bagpipe. It'll be okay.
So we're going to do some hot cakes today.
Hot takes for the hot cakes. Heck yeah.
Basically, we have 30 minutes tops, and we're going to solve the world's problems quickly, not long-winded.
I mean, when have we ever been long-winded in the past
That's
anyway?
true. I mean, the stamina episode notwithstanding.
It's funny, though, that we had so much stamina to make it through such a long episode.
Great point. Great point.
We could have kept going, really.
Poetic. Accidentally poetic.
All right, let's solve some of the world's problems. Problem number 1 from Reddit. Reddit user Anonymous says, Pipe Majors, how do you get your members to show up? So I'm a PM in my band. I'm fairly new to a leadership role, and it's been interesting. It's been great seeing my band progress musically, but I'm running into a pretty consistent problem: attendance. For reference, we're a parade band that doesn't compete. When I started my band, our drum corps was pitiful. Usually only one snare, a tenor, and a bass. The pipe corps was relatively healthy. Now, the band's leadership has been restructured. I took over the pipe corps, my lead tip retired, and now it's in the hands of someone else. The drum corps has flourished, pun intended. Nice pun.
Wow.
Now, on paper, we have something like 5 to 6 snares, 4 tenors, 2 basses, and 2 drum majors. But the pipe corps attendance has... That's actually where it cuts off, and I'm not sure if that's my fault because that's how Reddit does it, or because there's a ... I think maybe they're just indicating has not been good. What do you think? How do you get people to come?
The question is how to get people to come to band practice.
Yeah, they're saying on paper they've got 5 to 6 snares, 4 tenors, 2 basses, 2 drum majors, and a big pipe corps, I gather, as well. But they're just not getting people to show up to rehearsal.
Okay, so here's what I think about that. When you run a band, you have to decide what is acceptable for you in regards to the commitment of people in your band. Over the years, what I've learned is that an individual agreement with every member of the band is the best practice. So, for example, as opposed to saying, everyone in the band has to make 9 out of 10 rehearsals, and that's the rule. Instead, you would maybe have it in your mind that okay, 8 out of every 10 rehearsals is the golden standard that I'm looking for. But now I'm going to have a discussion with every single individual in my band to see what's reasonable for them. And then setting those expectations with individuals is the thing that you need to do. So the problem with attendance has to do with the fact that you have not defined your expectations with the members, or that you are not willing to enforce what you've defined. Okay.
So with a band that's already rolling and there's a new year on the horizon right now as we record this, maybe that's a good time to do a refresh of policies or something like that.
Yes, exactly. Because I think in last episode, we talked about the college kid that goes away. Well, maybe the
Right,
college
yeah.
kid is like, well, I can't make it to any practices until June,
Mm.
right? And so obviously they're not going to hit the 8 out of 10 goal that you have for them. But if you sit down with them individually and say, hey, like, do you think you can make a couple of rehearsals during Christmas break and during spring break? Can we make that happen? And just make sure you have your music learned by the time you show up in June. You know, you sit down with them and it's like, cool. So we'll see you in June. And that's the arrangement that we're going to have. So now when they don't show up to practice in October, you're not frustrated about that because you've set out those expectations. Or maybe somebody started a new job, or maybe someone is going to have a new baby or whatever. So working with each individual member to set the expectation, I think, is really going to help, right? One of the things Ali does in Vereri the last couple of years is he sends out a big survey at the beginning of peak season. The survey is, here's all the dates, and I want you to tell me what you're going to be at. And we all click off what we can be at, myself included, even as a parachuter. And that way he's got like literally a spreadsheet of how many he's going to expect at each practice. By the way, sometimes the spreadsheet reveals a practice that should probably just be canceled because not that many people are going to be there, and so on, right? But again, that's all just a way of setting the expectations. And so you need to do that. And then the other thing is you need to be willing to get rid of people that never show up. In other words, enforce the commitment level.
Yeah.
And most people are not willing to because they have very small bands.
Yeah.
This leads back to the moral of a lot of things here is your band has to be fun to play in, bro.
Maybe they'd come if it was more fun. Oh, we're turning it around on them there.
So if you sit down with people and you lay out the expectations and you come to an agreement and those people still don't deliver, it's probably a you problem.
That's a hard thing to think about, man.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. Or, I mean, it could be a them problem. Like maybe they're just flakes. But then if they're a flake, thanks for trying. It's not working out. We can try again next year. And then the question is, well, I can't get rid of those players because then I won't have a band. Exactly.
Yeah,
so
you're going to need numbers.
You're either going to need to lower your expectations and your standards, or you're going to need to find a way to find people that are willing and able to meet those expectations.
Yeah.
I've always said, and it's true, I'd rather play in a grade 4 band where people are excited and showing up and fulfilling their commitment and not being flaky than in a grade 1 band where there's lots of flakiness and people are not meeting the expectations and so on, right? Because it's just more fun.
That makes sense.
So a couple ideas there. I don't know if it's the definitive answer to that question, but
no, that is one of the world's problems solved. Hot take for the hot cake that is set. Problem solved. Next problem to solve. Any tips for learning to read sheet music for the pipes when I've been mostly learning by ear? I've been on the chanter for 8 months and bagpipes have been ordered. I can identify the notes on sheet music, but I can't for the life of me put the tune together on my chanter.
Yeah.
I also struggle with identifying embellishments on sheet music, even though I know the notes. I have, and I don't think this says dyslexia, but now it's funny that now I'm having a hard time reading the word. Dyscalculia. And I've heard that makes reading sheet music harder, but does anyone have any tips at all? It would be much appreciated. I wish I knew what dyscalculia was. Is that like dyslexia but with numbers?
Not sure. Let's just Google it and then we can edit out the pause.
Dyscal is a learning disorder that affects a person's ability to understand number-based information and math. Yeah, I can imagine that would make like note values difficult to put together. Like that, it can be a lot of math.
The question is, how do I learn to read music better?
Yeah, that's the question. Yeah, how do I learn to read music better?
If it's not something that interests you, don't do it. And then when it is something that interests you, you'll end up doing it. So I think like maybe you've been in the situation where just learning things by ear has been sufficient, right? And so the reason you haven't really gotten into sight reading is because it hasn't interested you that much. And so now for some reason, you seem to be interested in it more. Why would that be? It could be because you're starting to realize that reading music is going to open up a whole bunch more doors for you. It's going to help you go from only being able to learn tunes that you can hear, which, by the way, it's easier now than ever with YouTube and stuff.
Yeah.
But only learning tunes you can hear, it's going to go from that to being you could learn any tune that's ever been written down. Like, wow, that's pretty exciting and interesting and pretty cool, right? So like, don't stress about it too much would be my advice. Okay. But when you are ready, learn to read music the way that you learn to read English. That's how you learn to sight read music. Look to how you learned how to do that and apply it to sight reading. For example, was the first thing that you sight read from English words Hamlet?
Probably not. I'm guessing probably no.
No. Was it
probably.
Was it Jurassic Park? No,
Probably
it wasn't
not.
Jurassic Park either. Was it Berenstain Bears Halloween? No,
Probably
but
not
we're-
even that, but could
But
have
we're
been.
getting warmer.
Yeah, getting
right?
closer.
Yeah, it wasn't even Berenstain Bears Halloween. What was it? It was like Go Dog Go, maybe. That's the first thing one of the first things both of my kids did was Go Dog Go. In other words, you're going to read stuff that's very, very, very simple for starters. And what I would recommend is, and by the way, there's tons of stuff on YouTube. Go on YouTube and learn how to read basic rhythms first. So we're not even talking about notes yet. Your question said, I don't know how to identify the notes. We'll get there. Okay. But you don't want to learn to identify the notes if you don't know when those notes are going to happen, right? That would be out of order. So let's learn when stuff happens first, AKA rhythm, and we'll start with the absolute basics. There's a million different methodologies out there. You could probably even pay for a product or something that you find on the internet that would do a spectacular job teaching you the basics of rhythm. But yeah, just do the rhythm for a while. Get good at the rhythm. I not coincidentally started learning drumming in school at a very similar time when I was starting to learn the pipes. I'm certain that that was really helpful. But yeah, start with rhythm. Start small. Learn to sight read the same way you learn other things, which is starting with the absolute basics. And by the way, I think some of those videos are fun, man, on YouTube. What they'll do is they'll teach you the concepts, and then they'll take you through a whole bunch of exercises, and you can clap along and have a lot of fun with it. And we'll start with that, right? And then we can do the same with reading note names, which can be a little tricky because very few of those lessons are geared towards pipers. But if you have a keyboard, you can learn, just peck along on the keyboard with some basic notes. We want to learn and get comfortable how the staff works and how the different notes work. And we can apply that to the pipes later. And then the other thing you could do is, you could do the Piper's Dojo tutor. You could do any one of these other tutor systems as well. The Piper's Dojo tutor is pretty useful because we do a whole lot long before we introduce grace notes. So that'll give you a lot of experience starting to learn the different note shapes and stuff like that. But yeah, it's really, really simple.
I'm thinking of like what is the Go Dog Go of sheet music? And they mentioned that they can identify individual notes, but it's putting the song together that's difficult for them.
Yeah. And
Like,
that, by
get
the
those
way,
embellishments out of the way.
no,
keep
but
it simple.
it also just screams at me that this person doesn't understand rhythm. I find that to be true 93% of the time. Once you can get the person to understand a little bit of rhythm, they're off to the races. And to your point too, Jim, you weren't wrong. So if we can get them to understand the rhythm, and if we can get them to just take out all the embellishments temporarily and just play the big notes while understanding the rhythm, I mean, it's going to start to come. And then you just want to do a ton of it.
Yeah, do a lot of it. I mean, that's how you learn how to read words anyway, right? Is doing a lot of it. And you mentioned those YouTube videos where you can learn the rhythm thing and clap along. That's kind of what I was imagining too. Not knowing what it's like to have dyscalculia, of course, and not knowing what helps with that, I'm imagining or hoping that would help, where it's like if I see on the screen a half note and a quarter note, and it's in 3/4, and I'm just clapping along like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I'd imagine that would be the kind of exercise to start getting that into my bones,
Sure. Yep. So
Yeah.
we may or may not have learning disabilities, but the way that you learn is still got to be pretty similar, right? We got to break it down. It has to hold our attention, so it has to be fun. So break it down and have fun. Have fun with the basics. A lot of stuff will come. Just some really important tips. Write out the tunes that you already know
Like the names of them or
no.
like...
Write out the tunes. So for example, I know Scott and the Brave, so a great exercise is to write that out. And what we will soon find is you do not have the ability to write it out. You cannot figure it out, right? So we're going to take a piece of sheet music and we're going to write out a tune that we know. And you're going to realize, I don't know how to do this, okay? And then from there, do some Sherlock Holmesing and figure out how to write that puppy out. Try to figure it out without just copying it from another copy of Scott and the Brave. But if that's what it comes to, start with that. So I'm going to take Scott and the Brave, and then I'm going to just take a copy of Scott and the Brave that's written out, and I'm going to basically copy it over by my own hand. That gets you in the zone and thinking about how this stuff is actually supposed to work. And the more you understand about how it's actually supposed to work, the better you're going to do it. For example, when we don't just learn to read, do we? At the same time, in parallel, we learn to write it, and the two things work together.
Oh, good point.
You know what I mean? They do.
Yeah.
There's more. It's a multifaceted, multi-directional thing. So one of the reasons we stink at sight reading is because we've never written anything down. We haven't practiced writing it. Like, why are these 2 4s at the beginning of this line in Scott and the Brave? What's up with that?
Yeah.
Oh, Google says it's a time signature. Huh. I guess that makes sense. And now the bar lines, blah, blah, blah. You might not even do it consciously, but you are learning how it works.
I'm sure you've had this experience too, Andrew, where I have never in my life had so many causes to pause and wonder, did I just use the right word? I never had that kind of experience so often before I started doing podcasts.
Yeah.
And as soon as I started like actually talking in a way that I knew people were going to be listening to it, man, did I stop and think, wait, why does the sentence come out that way? Wait, did I just invent that word? That kind of thing.
Yeah. And then you realize the rabbit hole goes infinitely deep.
Yeah. So when you sit down to write out music, you're going to have those experiences, right? Where you, like just reading it, you're just blowing past it. But then you go to write it, it makes you think about it differently.
Yep. And by the way, your ability to sight read will always correlate strongly with your playing ability and your understanding of the music. So as you get better, it all kind of grows together. So now that I've been playing bagpipes for 30 years and I've studied music in university and I've done this, that, and the other thing, and I've become an examiner for the QA exams and all that stuff. It's like, as you get better and as you learn more and as you understand more and as you think about things in different ways, your sight reading gets better and better and better to the point where I can sight read anything I need to pretty easily. Probably, like, if someone watched me do it, they would probably be impressed. But it's just because it grows with your other abilities too. So anyway, those are some thoughts. My biggest one is to learn to sight read. Do the same thing you do anytime you learn anything new. Start from the beginning. I think the reason pipers struggle with sight reading is they try to start somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, we kind of skip over the beginning.
It's not hard to figure out where the beginning is.
And do it a lot, right?
I mean, do it as much, do it as much as it's fun. As much as it's fun, exactly. Yeah. And then Google is your friend. Just Google lots of rhythm stuff. You'll find a fun way of learning rhythm somewhere on the internet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would start with rhythm because rhythm is 80% of sight reading. And by the way, rhythm is 80% of music too.
Hey, get rhythm.
Yeah. Ironic coming from him.
Yeah, right.
He never really rhythmically branched out, did he?
Have you noticed how many of his songs too have extra beats thrown in here and there? You get set in a meter and then suddenly you're like, wait, what just happened?
Johnny Cash was clearly doing the kind of music that he enjoyed.
Yeah, and obviously, you can't question. I love Johnny Cash, so it's not like I'm going to be like, Johnny Cash is bad at music. No, whatever he did, I like it.
Right. It's like Neil Young's nickname amongst guitarists is Sloppy Neil.
Sloppy Neil.
I don't think him and his $1 billion really cares that much.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. Maybe, I think he's back on Spotify now. Okay, let's keep going.
Okay, how about pipe bands and new members? Have you ever joined a pipe band that turned out to not be as welcoming as originally thought? I know most pipe bands have at least several members who have been around for many, many years, and that they naturally become very close with each other. But sometimes, as a new member, you're feeling left on the sidelines.
Yeah, for sure.
Next question. No, just kidding. Yeah.
I think that's totally normal.
Yeah. How much of that do you feel? Because, I mean, I've seen it in more than one pipe band before where we'll have seasons where we try to make efforts to be aware of this. And, everybody everybody go and say hello to all the new people every week, that kind of thing. And then it's kind of like when you're one of the old players, you're just used to getting there. You say hi to your friends, you get out your pipes and you play. And there might be new people there and you don't say hello. How much of this is on the individual having to just acknowledge that they're a newcomer in a familiar space and it will be a while before they feel familiar there?
I think it's a two-way street.
Hmm.
I think it's a protection mechanism. I think people who are already in the band have a lot to protect, right? They have their own status in the band to protect. And they also have like what's special about the band as a unit to protect as well. So it kind of makes sense that a new person comes in and you're not going to be instantly trusting. You just kind of have to go for it. Hey, who was it that said like, jump into the pool, but don't do a cannonball?
I don't know, but that's nice. I like it.
Yeah. Like, so as a new person in a band, jump in, get to know people, but you don't want to make a cannonball because that's going to, I've definitely been guilty of, I like to cannonball.
Yeah.
What's up, y'all? I'm here. Let's do this.
Andrew Douglas in the house.
No, maybe not. I think I'm better in my older age, but I remember when I joined the SFU pipe band, like the second time I came out, there was an invite from Terry Lee to have a bit of dinner before band. And he was like, all right, bro, you got to cool the jets a little bit.
Oh, really?
Like kind of in his own special Terry Lee way, in a way that didn't make me feel like humiliated or anything. He was just kind of like, and in other words, jump in, but let's not do a cannonball. And that's the way that it was. SFU pipe band that band had an amazing legacy. And then there's this new hotshot who comes in. It wasn't instantly easy to fit in with the crew, but then over time you earn people's trust and people start to understand that you have the interests of the team in mind. I think that's a thing, especially in the top bands. If you're going to join a top band, the people on the team that have made the team want to know that new people aren't just coming in to freeload accolades for themselves, which totally does happen, by the way.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially the top levels. I'd imagine in the local bands, maybe it's not always a trust thing. Maybe it's also we are creatures of habit, and it might just take a while before some of the people who are in a habit rut even notice that you're there. You might need to show up a dozen times before they go, this is a new face.
Yeah, it's difficult, but you could take pipe bands out of it. When is the last time anyone joined a group of 40 people and felt instantly accepted?
I had a pleasant experience just a week or two ago. There's a famous flute player who came into Utah. And so I went because they were doing like a workshop / concert / session. And after the workshop, there was a little dinner and everybody was just kind of standing around eating and talking. And I knew exactly one person there, the person who'd organized it. And so I was standing there by myself. And there was a fiddle player who came over and introduced himself to me and just said, this is my first time having come. I was like, oh, mine as well. And they said, oh, okay. And they looked around the room and they picked a random person. They said, do you know that person? And I said, no. And they said, let's go meet them. I thought it was admirable.
Some people are good at that.
Some people are good at that. I obviously wasn't. I was content to stand awkwardly in the corner until the concert started, honestly. But some people are good at that.
So I just think it's normal. If you join a new church, do you feel churches are way better organized about accepting newbies, aren't they?
They'll usually have people assigned to watch for newbies. So.
Yeah. And then, you just have to break the ice. There's never been a time in my life where walking into a new group wasn't uncomfortable. And then some groups are better than others at helping you break the ice. But yeah, it's usually just a little uncomfortable at first, right?
Yeah. Just embrace that. It's going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Or go find a new pipe band. I don't know.
Yeah. But then if you go to 3 or 4 practices and you still don't feel like people want you there, then don't keep going.
Yeah. Maybe there's another option. Maybe you start your own pipe band.
Yeah. It's usually fine. Usually people who play bagpipes learn to like other people that play bagpipes.
Now, Andrew, it's funny. I've got 3 Reddit posts left for us to have conversations about.
Okay.
2 of them are about stamina, which we just did a whole episode about.
Okay,
so I think maybe we already...
Read the 2 questions, and then after that, I will say, you should see the episode we just did about stamina.
Yeah, there you go.
But let's hear the questions in case there's anything new.
Sorry. Stamina increase / maintenance without pipes. Hi, folks. Had a Google and search around Bob Dunsire, but couldn't find anything. Any tips on maintaining lip strength / playing stamina without pipes? I'm going to be away from my pipes for a while, like going on vacation or something like that. I've often been told that I should practice my lip pressure on a pencil chanter. You ever heard of that before? Andrew?
Maybe.
Like you put a chanter or a pencil between your lips, I guess, and kind of hold it.
Does practicing lip strength sound like fun to you, Jim?
Not to me. Hey, maybe it's fun to some people, but no, it doesn't sound
So
especially
if
fun to me.
practicing lip strength on a pencil seems like your idea of a good time, then I think by all means. But otherwise, I would do what you can do while you're away, rather than trying to figure out a way to do what you can't do. So if you're going on vacation with no pipes, bring your practice chanter. And if you can't bring your practice chanter, bring your electronic pipes. And if you can't bring your electronic pipes, just make sure you load up a playlist of new music that you'll enjoy listening to while you're doing stuff on vacation. But, focus on what you can do and what seems like fun. And don't worry about what you can't do. We can make great strides in other areas other than stamina while we're on vacation. If working on your stamina feels like a fun idea, then go ahead. But otherwise, just play bagpipes a lot and have fun. Which, by the way, what's the next question?
I lied when I said there were two. I just clicked to it. It's actually not about stamina.
Okay, cool. So for more stamina discussion, more vomitrocious self-help advice.
Vomitrocious. I like it.
See our last episode we did where we talked for almost an hour about this very topic.
I have one more that we could use.
But let's try and squeeze one more in.
So the one more is a bit of a different one. Basically, this person is saying they're coming back to Highland piping after about 15 years, and that previously they'd been playing, they're a pipe major, they played quite a bit, and they're just coming back to it.
Okay.
Stuff got in the way, they're excited to be back, and the question really is just, what's the latest? What's been going on for the last 15 years? If you cast your mind back, we're in 2024 right now, toss your head back, 2024
2010.
2010?
Yeah.
Even 2009? If you cast your mind back that far, Andrew, what's happened in those years?
Yeah, I feel like the trad music has exploded. Certainly the bagpipes involvement in trad music has really exploded. Like you got your Ross Ainsley and your Ross Millers, and you got your...
all the Rosses. Rosses.
And you have like your... the Biolik, Matt McIsaac sort of thing. Like that album was crazy. It was so great. Oh my God, it was so great. And so for me, that's one of the things that's just really gone exponential. So check some of that stuff out. Pipe bands are kind of similar, but
there's
just
some exciting moments.
Yeah,
in competitions,
definitely.
Right?
Yeah, pipe bands are still happening. Solos are still happening. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Jim?
I also would have, the first thing I would have said would have been trad music. And I'm unsure, did I just not know about this, or has it gotten really big and great in the last few years? A combination of both, honestly, but yeah.
In the early 2000s, I was experimenting with stuff that's now commonplace and totally kick-ass. Like doing weird slides and writing quadruple part harmonies. Back in 2004, I remember just how crazy it was to start with a sort of a suspension in a chord, and we resolved it down to C, an Aaron B minor. And that blew people's minds. Now it happens 3 times per tune.
Right.
And usually in a good way. Maybe we're still in a phase where people are overdoing some of that stuff. And so there's always going to be like that error correction that goes on, which is a beautiful thing. But yeah, so it's just piping now is like piping 15 years ago with just 15 years of more trial and error and evolution.
Another thing that I do think is big over the last 15 years, which isn't unique to the last 15 years, it'll probably continue on this trajectory and was already on this trajectory, but it's just recording quality. Not just for like video and YouTube videos, but like listening to albums. You can put, for me at least, older bagpipe recordings are interesting because they're older, but they can be painful to listen to physically, like especially on headphones and stuff. Right? I put in Ross Miller, man, I could crank that to 11 on headphones or in the car or anything, and the sound quality is pristine. It's beautiful.
I know. And then just to totally derail this podcast, it makes me, we might have to edit out this pause, but it makes me just laugh and scoff at pessimists who believe that we've long since departed from bagpiping's golden age. And that the world isn't getting drastically better by the year. I just can't stand that point of view. And the evidence is right in front of you. You can produce an amazing quality album in your basement, in your boxer shorts, And if you don't want to master it yourself, you can just send the project files across the internet to anyone in the world who could master it. I mean, these pop stars, they're recording all their stuff in their underwear in the basement.
Yeah.
Though the stuff you hear on the radio, Charlie Puth or whatever his name is, he just like sits in his bedroom at his mom's house and cranks out these hits.
And we know this because he often goes live to show us how he's making his next hit.
Exactly. And then he shows you how to do it.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Super cool. Yeah.
Whether you like his music or not. I mean, that's incredible. 15 years ago, that maybe wasn't the case. And yeah, there's obviously problems that, especially in the music industry, that they're trying to figure out how to deal with. But like, yeah, it's just great. And bagpiping is right there. You can make an album, you can release it on Bandcamp and get paid for your work. All that happens all the time.
Yeah. Go Bandcamp.
It's
Thank
great.
goodness that platform exists.
And so I think that's a great point, Jim. Yeah. I think one thing that's challenging for me is it just like it is now with the news. Did we just talk about this? Why do I feel like we just talked about this?
We might have talked about it, or maybe we're just thinking about it all the time. I don't know.
But like now, when you try to get the news, you don't really know where to go, and it's all a hot mess. It seems like,
yes.
And it's just like this big thing. Back in the day, you had a couple newspapers to choose from, and you had a couple network television stations to choose from, and that's where you were going to get your news. And now news is scattered all over the place. I do feel like that's a challenge with the new landscape of figuring out what's going on in the piping world. Is there's so much and of all sorts of different types and styles, right? All the way from Allie the Piper through to, Matt Welch, improvisatory, Matt, don't take this the wrong way, but I was going to go with super academic, but that's probably not what it is. But you know what I mean? Super intellectual.
Art,
Maybe
like
we could
that,
call it intellectual or something. So like you have that. And by the way, I'm not trying to say Allie the Piper's music is completely non-intellectual. That's not what I'm trying to say.
You are offending everybody.
Edit this out. But what I'm saying is like there's this huge wide range of stuff now. And you can't just go to the Bagpipe store and buy the newest CD anymore.
Yes. Previously, you could be a completionist. You could get the newest album and you'd be caught up. Can't catch up now. There's too much good stuff out there.
Yeah, exactly. And what platform do you use to listen to it on?
Yeah, right. It's like it's on YouTube and it's on Bandcamp.
Yeah, and by the way, Bandcamp, this is a hot take episode, right?
It is.
Bandcamp's kind of lame.
Oh, do you mean like the interface? Like how
the
it
interface?
Works?
Yeah,
it's
like
very basic. It's
I
like
don't listen to
MySpace.
anything on Bandcamp because it pisses me off to try to open the app and listen to stuff.
I've got used to it, so I do end up listening to Bandcamp quite a lot now, but I totally know what you mean. It's like the thing I'm listening to will get in the front, but then if I try to look for something else, it doesn't seem like it's very well laid out. Yeah,
it's poorly laid out, and I guess the reason we're doing Bandcamp and not just putting your stuff on Apple Music and Spotify is so that you actually get paid for
that's the thing.
Consumption.
Supporting artists. Yeah, it's a way to get money to artists.
What is people actually being willing to listen to your music worth to you? Is it worth as much as the small amount of dollars that the small amount of people willing to go on Bandcamp are willing to you know what I mean? Man, I'm not sure the trade-offs are there.
Bandcamp did get acquired a little while ago by a larger company, and I have been wondering, I don't want the pay the artist model to go away, but we could have an interface upgrade, and I don't think it would be a bad thing. Is there a little capital behind it now? Could we maybe improve the app?
I get it. It's a tricky situation. Totally understand.
Yeah.
But if people like me, I don't listen to a lot of great music because it's annoying to find it and to turn it on. Seriously.
Yeah.
And we live in a world now where that really matters. I'm not going to do 14 clicks to try and find out how to listen to you on Bandcamp.
But it's really good music, Andrew.
I know, it is good. And I'm willing to buy the music. And I'm like, oh God, it's on Bandcamp though. So it might get 1 or 2 listens from me. Whereas if it was on my Apple Music and I could add it to my awesome trad jams playlist, which I totally have, right? Okay. I want to add it to my awesome trad jams playlist. And then I'm going to consume that thing 100 times or more.
Like I say, I've been frustrated with the Bandcamp interface before too. I also feel like I need to be fully transparent and honest with you, Andrew. Most of my listening is through Bandcamp at present. I spent money on a Bandcamp t-shirt just because I like that the platform exists so much, and I wear it on a weekly basis.
Love the idea. I'm struggling with the execution of it though. I released a single a few years ago and I had to ask myself, well, And again, I'm small time.
Mhm.
So it's probably different for real artists. But for me, I just did a single because I had an idea and I made it and I thought, okay, well, let's release this. And it's like, okay, do I want to make maybe $403 by putting it on Bandcamp? Or do I want to make basically nothing and put it on Apple Music where people could actually listen to it?
Yeah, that's the trick, right? For small potatoes artists, it's like you have to be on Spotify, etc., to get discovered, to get listened to
Yep.
to reach people.
Yep.
And maybe from that, you can then, if people really love your stuff, you can be like, I have this stuff on Bandcamp as well. And maybe they would go, in order to support you, I will buy a copy of it on Bandcamp, and then I will continue to listen to it on Spotify.
Yeah. Well, and that's the big question. That's the big problem, is that you want to pursue music making, but how do you make enough money doing that?
Yeah.
It's really hard. I think the answer is probably more in the Patreon model than in the Bandcamp model.
Mm.
So here's my album on Spotify, but by the way, every Friday I go live on my Patreon feed. Please support me or whatever. And where have things gone in the last 15 years? I mean, 15 years ago would have been like 2009, and I think they still made world CDs then. Maybe not, or maybe it was just ending 15 years ago. So we're sort of in the post-centralized bagpipe music scene. We're in a decentralized phase, which in the long run is going to be spectacular. In the short run, we're experiencing growing pains.
I'm seeing a CD all the way up to 2012.
Okay. There you go.
So it continued a little bit longer, but still, yeah.
But why don't they make the CD anymore? It's like, why don't they make the CD anymore? It's a shame because I want to listen to the worlds on repeat.
It's cool, right? When you have a CD
right
in your car, you end up listening to it over and over again, and there's a depth to the way that you listen after a few rotations. It's a special experience.
So we have the problem, and it's a solvable problem, but we have the problem of so much cool music being instantly available to us. We have an attention problem. Many books have been written that don't hold my attention, ironically.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Great point, Jonathan Haidt, but could you make it flashier? Because I'm bored.
For sure. It's like, what are we going to do about this crazy world where no one can focus? By the end of the first chapter, I'm like, ooh, look, another Audible book.
Yeah.
Who did murder that guy's wife's sister
Right.
at the beach camp? That looks awesome. Can't wait. Weirdly, those hold our attention. What's up with that?
We are a messed up species.
We live in this world where there's this incredible knowledge, this incredibly interesting stuff. There's amazing stuff we could apply our minds to and try and solve problems, but we prefer Nicole Kidman in another limited series.
We just want like the gossipy stuff, right?
We just want Nicole Kidman to play an edgy character for 6 episodes. There's rich people. We love rich people for some reason. We love experiencing fiction about their problems.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, though? It's like, why, though? And it's also like I have this book in front of me. I'm learning all sorts of incredible stuff about philosophy, and I'm asking all sorts of the universe's question. And then the wife is like, hey, I have this show you might like. And you're like, really?
Yep.
Tell me more.
I was only reading this to fill the time until I found another show.
Like, what do you mean it's called The Perfect Couple? That's a dumb name for a show. Well, but it's about this couple that looks perfect, but then a murder happens on their beach.
Book out the window, man. Tell me more.
You're like, really? A murder happens on the beach? Yeah. And their son has a fiance, but she's kind of edgy. She's not old money.
And then you go,
she's like, she's not old money?
Does Nicole Kidman play her?
Wait, there's more. Nicole Kidman is the main character. And you're like, I have to, I need it.
I'm so in.
I just can't wait for the next, limited series that she's in.
Wasn't Nicole Kidman the lead in that show, The Others? That one messed me up. That one scared me.
I'm not sure if I've seen that one, but I saw the one where she was microdosing her customers at the secret hotel.
Ooh, yeah.
Which was awesome.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
Nicole Kidman was English as a second language in that story, which was amazing. What range? Amazing.
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
Nicole Kidman.
We set out to solve the world's problems. Needless to say, we arrived at Nicole Kidman, who's doing just that.
So everybody get on Bandcamp and support Nicole Kidman.
Yeah. She's got a Bandcamp profile now too, yeah. It's possible that you didn't even know what Bandcamp was until now, and now you know, which is a good thing, even though I have some problems with the interface.
There's some really good music, really good bagpipe music in the world, including on Bandcamp and elsewhere.
Yes. All right, people. I think that's us signing off. Hey, everybody. Andrew Douglas here from the Pipers Dojo, and I just want to say thanks so much for listening to today's iteration of the podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard here today, it would be super helpful to us and to a lot of bagpipers out there trying to find us. If you could give us a top-notch review on whatever platform you're using to listen to this podcast, particularly Apple, iTunes, and Spotify and things like that, your review would be really, really helpful. So if you have a moment today, definitely go over there and help us out. Other than that, until we meet again on the podcast or somewhere else, thanks again for listening.